Well, hello everybody. Good Sunday morning. What is going on in your world? My name is Conor McGilligan and we're back here discussing Leeds United losing 5-0 to Arsenal. These are going to be the 5 things that we learned from that 5-0. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's get on to it. So, number 1, everybody, I think new signings are needed. I think it's very, very obvious. I think, when it comes to that transition and just in general, really, when you're still seeing, in my opinion anyway, Sam Byram coming on. Byram's not done anything wrong, but in terms of that rotation, bringing certain personnel off the bench yesterday, you're kind of looking at Harrison still been on the bench. Obviously, Byram, Metro, I should say, and Okafor, and you're kind of looking at it, and at 5-0 or 4-0 or 3-0, you're looking at the bench and you're thinking, are there any game changes on there? Is there a rotation, bit of pace, bit of someone who you can bring on who can make a difference? And obviously that's down to the manager. The manager's got to make certain changes, of course, when we're looking at personnel on the pitch at certain moments, but it didn't feel like yesterday we had that much coming off the bench, and even if we're just looking at the starting 11, I do think there needs to be a little bit more out wide, a little bit more depth. It was great to see Noah Okafor come on, and effectively, I thought he did okay. I thought he did okay yesterday, Okafor. I thought he came on, showed a few flashes, but that consistency needs to be built with the fullbacks, obviously, because that is a partnership going forward. But someone like Bakwa coming in from Strasbourg, I know Leeds United are now battling with Nottingham Forest for his signature, but yeah, I just still think there needs to be a little bit more X factor, a little bit more consistency in that final third. I still felt when we got into positions yesterday, it was maybe overthinking, the wrong pass, the wrong decision, and someone of higher quality coming in will only enhance that. The obvious one, Lucas Mecha, and does he need to start? Of course he flipping does. I don't think there's a conversation anymore, to be honest, sort of between Peru and Mecha and DCL. I think there has to be a start for either DCL or Mecha. I think there's going to be too many games this season where the physicality of the back 3 or back 4 or back 2, just if we're focusing on the centre back, that I think it's going to be too much for Joel Peru. Now, we saw in the second half, throughout the second half, when he wasn't dropping deep, I thought the central defensive midfielder, Idrissa Gana Gueye for Everton, was a little bit more on the defender's toes, which unfortunately neutralised Joel Peru for large portions of that second half. I thought in that first half, he was really able to get into that number 10 midfield position, which enabled Joel Peru's play to really develop. But I feel like they worked that out the second half. Gana Gueye was just on the defender's toes, and it felt like then he was completely neutralised from the game until obviously Mecha came on and made a bit of an impact. That doesn't matter with Mecha. I feel the physicality, the Route 1 style of football, but he doesn't need to just do that as well. He's a good ball carrier in the channels. I think he's probably quicker than Joel Peru as well, and there's an argument that he's a more effective presser. I think it's really dangerous to just look at Peru and just say, yeah, well, he scored 19 goals in the Championship. Well, Josh Brownhill scored 18 goals in the Championship, and he's still looking for a Championship club. So that's not any disrespect on Joel Peru, but I think that sort of notion of, oh, well, he scored this amount of goals last season, you've got to look at this season, you've got to look at the teams we're playing, and you've got to look at style-specific fights, of which I think yesterday, I think Newcastle, I think many teams in this division he's going to struggle with. It's going to be an isolated figure, especially if Leeds are under pressure, they're under a press, they're needing to get out. You need someone who can hold the ball, win free kicks, and effectively get your team up the pitch. I don't think Peru's going to be that for Leeds United this season. I think he's an impact player, but it's got to be Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It's got to be Mecha starting for Leeds United from now on, and hopefully that's something Farke learned, especially if he's looking to go Route 1 at points this season, because Joel Peru's never going to be effective. He never has been effective in that role. That's not his fight. So, number 2, everybody, it is the play builder from the base of the pivot, or number 3, I think this is. But number 3 is the base of the pivot. Now, when you are trying to build out from the back, which it looks like Farke wants to do, albeit hopefully after yesterday he's learned that in certain games you have to be pragmatic, you have to adapt to the opposition. And if they're very good at a press, or if they're very good at recoveries in the final third, there's absolutely no reason for you to build out from the back. You should just utilise those attributes of which we signed, 6'2", 6'3" players who are able to get you up the pitch. But if he is willing to do that, you cannot have Gruev as a baseline single pivot playmaker. You can't do it. You saw yesterday, he won't even scan over his shoulder at points. He's busy. He wants the ball all the time. But the likelihood is he never opens you up with space. Gruev will always want the ball. He'll always go to the left back, always go to the right back wanting the ball. But the likelihood is he works in a sort of certain, like, almost trident. He'll go straight back to the player who's playing the ball, thus not opening space whatsoever, or that closed body approach. He'll get the ball and pass the ball immediately back to the centre-back or the goalkeeper. He doesn't give Leeds United anything when it comes to that. His runs at points, I would like to see him receive the ball, play it back, then dart up the pitch, you know, take that other central midfielder up the pitch, create space for someone to then drop into that hole like a Stack, like a Tanaka, and then move forward. Then you've created space. You know, you're not doing that one-dimensional running pattern, which you do all the time. You know, get the ball, but then if you can't turn out, play it back, but then dart forward, run down the line, drag that midfielder out of position, and then get someone else to just get into that position, drop into your hole, and then you've got the space because it's unpredictable. Grev's movement in that single pivot is so predictable. It's so obvious. It gives Leeds United no sort of movement, space, anything. It's just effectively getting your passing statistics up. Give the ball to me, I'll pass it back, or I'll pass it there. It's not doing anything for Leeds United. If anything, it's just wasting time. So there has to be someone at the base of that double pivot, or single pivot I should say, who's able to get the ball on the back foot and really able to play and vary their movement as well. I don't think there's enough movement from Gruev in terms of progressively. I think it's very static. It's very, when it's not static, lateral and obvious, and you don't have to press him because you know that he's not going to bypass and be progressive in that single pivot like position. He's just going to get the ball and play within a space of which is very predictable for your Rice, your Zubomendi, your Odegaard. So that always needs to be Tanaka. That's what I would do for the Newcastle game. It'd be Tanaka, or it'd be stacking that single pivot, and I'd be moving Longstaff into one of those 8 positions. Number 4, everybody, and this is kind of what we're looking at really when it comes to Farke. There's got to be a learning here of yesterday. He went to Arsenal to try and play the ball out from the back, and I think we all saw that with the lineup. We were all completely confused with the lineup, and there was still people saying, look, Connor, we still might play, you know, direct football here, and there was you're never going to play direct football with Gruev at the base of that midfield, but also you're never going to play, I thought, a direct football, a certain approach, a defensive approach. We'll be putting Yakabiol, who is probably our best defender, at the back, or maybe going to a back 3, which I know we would never do, but getting your best header, someone who defends that box exceptionally well for sort of underdog teams, Udinese, Slovenia, in Yakabiol. I thought that would have been the obvious move. He's not been injured, he's just been suspended, so he's fit, he's ready to play. That didn't happen, which signified to me immediately that Leeds were going to try play out from the back. You've heard murmurings in his press conferences, Daniel Farke, that he wants to play football, he wants to play out from the back. That's great and that's fine against certain teams, but you've got to be so careful against your Arsenals. And look, you can lose games. The likelihood is, I've mentioned this several times, that you are going to lose against Arsenal. You're going to lose against City. You're going to lose against Liverpool. But give your team the best tools to at least maybe get a result. We've seen in previous seasons at Nottingham Forest, Brentford, Fulham, they've all done it in recent years where they've got results against the big boys. They've unexpectedly got results. You cannot go into every single game against some of these top teams thinking you're just going to get steamrolled and there's no point in turning up. You've got to equip yourself with the best game plan, the best strategy against these teams, frustrate them, and you never know, you might even get a point. But yeah, he's got to learn from this. It was a massive curve for Farke yesterday, and no matter how many times he's come out praising how great Arsenal are and how amazing, Arsenal don't really score 5 goals, everybody. Tell me the last time Arsenal scored 5 goals against an opponent. It doesn't really happen, and they didn't play that well. So it's all right coming out and saying Arsenal are great, Arsenal this, Arsenal that, but you didn't give yourself the best chance. Kept mentioning it yesterday. You went into a sword fight with a butter knife. You've got to go in, strategically play your team in a way of which might get something. The likelihood is you'll lose, but tactically you've got to adapt to the opposition, especially with the type of team Leeds United are. And number 5, everybody, it is on Yaka. I'd love him to start, I think, against Newcastle, especially with maybe the lack of centre forward. Maybe Asula's going to come in, obviously a bit of a physical centre forward as well. They're going to play a very dynamic way, probably a 4-3-3, of which we've got to adapt again. Very different to Arsenal, very different to Everton, and they're going to hit the wingers, they're going to hit the channels and try put the ball into the box as well. Probably quite similarly to how we're going to shape up as well. Quick wingers, the big man in the box to cross into, but the big battle is going to be in that midfield. So be all we need to start, but you have to be starting runners in and around Metra if you are going to start him. But primarily, if you are going to start Peru, you have to start Longstaff anyway, because if you don't start Longstaff, Peru's going to be isolated again. So we've got to learn, we've got to adapt, but I will bring Yakabiol in. I'll be looking at putting Tanaka at the base of that midfield, and ultimately I'll be bringing Metra in for this one. And do you know what? I'd like to see no Roquefort as well at some stage. So guys, let me know what you think on the 5 things. We're going to be back this evening with Hardline. Really excited to see you guys there. That is a show with me and Gabe where we're going to be chewing the fat of this game. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you in a bit. Cheers.